Hey guys, what's going on? It's Cody Steck. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know for Utah County. We're going to be doing a map tour here on my computer. I'm going to show you all the ins and outs to everything you need to know about Provo, Orem, Lehi, Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, all of these super popular areas, and everything you need to know as we jump around this map. If you're thinking about making that move here to Utah, make sure to reach out to me. My information will be here on the screen. Call, text, or email anytime. I'd absolutely love to have a chat with you about the type of home and lifestyle that you're looking to have, whether you're looking at northern Utah or southern Utah. We have a team who can help make that transition very easily. I've had people from all across the world reach out, and I cannot wait to hear from you as well. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and consider sharing this with a friend or family member who might also be interested in learning more about Utah County. All right, let's jump into things here. So let me go ahead and make myself a little bit smaller and jump over here. So the information that we're looking at here, we are, like I said, Utah County. You can see here in this red outline everything that covers. So it does cover all the way out here to Cedar Fort, Fairfield, all the way down here, and then kind of comes back up. Santaquin is going to be your major city, major city on the south end here of Utah County. You can see it covers some area over here, and then, of course, this main corridor here that we're going to talk about. So let me go ahead and get rid of that, and we're going to start here down at the south end. We're going to talk about Santaquin. So Santaquin, the first thing you need to know about this is it's a relatively small city, but it's experiencing tons of growth right now because there's so many people who want to live close to, Provo, Orem, or even just this area of Spanish Fork and Payson. Unfortunately, it's gotten kind of expensive there, so people are coming down here to Santaquin, and they're building tons of new houses out there. The good thing is that you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. You can get houses out there for probably $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, but you are going to pay for it with your time, right? If you're making that commute, then you are going to have to commute into town, which from Santaquin to Provo, if I had to guess, is probably let's just see here. If I had to guess, probably 30 minutes. 20 minutes, yeah, with no traffic, 20 minutes to Provo. So really not too bad. If you're working in Provo, then that's definitely a place you could live. And, 20-minute commute is not bad at all. Now, if there's traffic or weather, then of course it could be closer to 30 minutes. So Santaquin to Provo, pretty easy. Again, Santaquin, mostly just small town, type living there. They've got a Macy's, which is a grocery store, Ace Hardware, a couple parks here, a couple fast food drive-in places. But that's going to be basically it in Santaquin. Not a whole lot to talk about. It is kind of just a small town. You're also going to have like some rural farmers out in this area, especially as you go over here to like Ganola or Goshen down here, West Mountain, Palmyra, Benjamin. That's mostly just farmland, right? People doing farming or ranching, that type of thing here on this west side. So not much to talk about there. Going to be mostly old, small farm pieces of land, right? So that kind of covers Santaquin. Let's move on to Payson. So Payson is going to be a little bit bigger. Payson has seen a lot of that growth over the last 10, 15, 20 years that Santaquin is now experiencing. So Payson was kind of that first city that people moved to. Still has that kind of small town feel. They've got a really cute main street that you can drive down, walk down with lots of boutique shops and whatnot, but it is still kind of small town here in Payson. So again, if you're either working from home, you want a slower pace of life, and you're commuting into Spanish Fork or up here to Provo, Orem, even up here to Lehi, you're 20, 30, 35 minutes at most from Payson to the north end of Lehi, with a little bit of traffic in there. So it's really not too bad for that commute, and you're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck. Now, let's come over here and talk about Oakridge and Woodland Hills. So these are two brand new areas that are up and coming. You've got Woodland Hills to the east, and then Oakridge over here to the west, I guess, of Woodland Hills. So lots of houses in this area. Single family homes, you're probably looking at like 7, 8, 900,000 for this area. It's new. They're big houses. They've got amazing views. You can't quite see on this map here. Let's see if we go over here to this one. You can see that you can see it a little bit, but basically this kind of goes up the mountain, right? This is all mountain range right here. So if you're up here in the hills, you really get this amazing view looking north into Spanish Fork, Provo, and over Utah Lake. So you can get some really awesome views. I've helped a number of clients move here to Oakridge and Woodland Hills, and they absolutely love it, right? Yes, homes are going to be more expensive, anywhere from $700,000 to $2 million plus for single family homes, but the views and the community are really worth it in my opinion. So again, if you want a nicer home in a southern area, you're not commuting to the city every single day, then that might be something to consider is, move down here and check out Oakridge or Woodland Hills. All right, now as we move a little bit further north, let's come up here and take a look at Salem. So Salem, again, really kind of that same thing as Oakridge and Woodland Hills. It's just going to be slightly older. It's a little bit more developed, a little bit closer to town, and a little bit more mature. So that's the main highlight here of Salem. They are going to have, your small grocery store, some fast food places and whatnot, but it is mostly going to be just residential area. There's not a ton of office buildings buildings or warehouses or anything like that in any of these cities. You know, Payson will have a tiny bit of that, especially over here on the west side, but for the most part, Salem, Woodland Hills, and Oakridge are all just going to be, you know, basically residential homes. So Oakridge, you can see, is a little bit tighter, whereas Woodland Hills, you know, does kind of sit up in the hillside here. So a lot more trees, kind of more mountainous feel, and a little bit more spread out over here. So with Salem, as we scroll back up here, you can also see there's still a lot of farmland, especially here between Salem and Payson. Look at all this farmland right here. This will eventually be developed and turned into houses, most likely. You've also got some land in here that will, you know, go the same route. And then everything up here to the east will be in that same avenue as well. So tons of land out here that's being farmed still, super valuable land, and all of this down here. So this is why you're going to see so much growth in this part of Utah County, is because of all of this land here, right? There's tons of land for people to build on, and a ton that is actually happening. So everything out here, West Mountain, Benjamin, Lakeshore, Palmyra, just basically farmland out here right now, but lots of valuable land that will be developed in the future years. All right, moving forward, we're going to talk about Spanish Fork. We're just making our way up here into the county as well. As we go forward, if you want to learn, you know, if you just want to skip this part and go ahead and go to, you know, Pleasant Grove, Lehi, Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, feel free to skip ahead in the video. You know, you don't have to worry about this stuff if you're not interested in it. I just want to give a full overview. So this will be a little bit longer of a video, but Spanish Fork is going to be basically built out, right? There's still a lot of land out here to the east side of Spanish Fork that still could be developed at some point, but Spanish Fork is where you really start getting into your office buildings. You start getting into some warehouse type stuff. You start getting into more of that commercial stuff that you really see once an area has been built out. That's the important thing to know about Spanish Fork. It is that it is going to be a little bit more built out than the cities we just talked about, and you're going to have all of your daily amenities within 5, maybe 10 minutes drive, and that's basically it. So of course, you're going to have Walmarts, Targets. You're going to have tons of, you know, shopping and food and whatnot, everything you'd need, especially along this main corridor. You've got Costco right here, and, you know, McDonald's, Walmart, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, all of those places are going to be right here on this main corridor. So that's going to be Spanish Fork. This part over here, Spanish Fork Main Street, this is going to be kind of the old town of Spanish Fork itself. So this is kind of like downtown, right, where you're going to find these older houses that have been there for a long time. And you're going to find some new houses here. You can kind of tell this is a new community based on how it's laid out. Or if you come over here, you will find that same exact thing. So you can see kind of all the houses that are stacked up in here and lots of new houses going in over here. These look like townhomes there. Maple Mountain High School, awesome school. Always hear about them in the news. So yeah, they've got some really good schools there in Spanish Fork. And as we continue our move north, we're going to have Mapleton over here. Let me go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. So Mapleton is over here, and then Springville up to the north. Mapleton is going to be very similar to Spanish Fork, but it's going to be a little bit quieter and a little bit more expensive. You know, homes here are going to be maybe 6, 7, 800, 900,000, just depending on how nice they are, how big, the year they were built, and you know, all of the finishes inside. So Mapleton, again, really kind of that same feel. It's going to be really nice and really small. You know, Mapleton, every time you drive through, it kind of just has this like peaceful feeling, not a lot going on, kind of in a good way. You know, it's really kind of just a quiet place. People are just there hanging out, and again, very little commercial development. Of course, you've got all of your day-to-day amenities, but you're not going to see like a big downtown area or big office buildings or anything like that. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 streets where you find some of that, but that's basically it. It's mostly going to be residential down here in this area. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. And again, you can still see there's so much land here to be developed in future years. So there'll be a lot of building going on for at least the next 15, 20, 30, 40 years in this area here of Mapleton. And you've got easy access to the mountains here. So if you want to go into hiking, if you want to mountain bike, climb, anything like that, super easy to do here from Mapleton itself. All right. Moving up into Springville. Again, Springville is going to be a little bit older than what you find in Spanish Fork, at least on a relative basis, right? You're going to find lots of houses there built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. You can still find brand new homes just depending on the area, but Springville is going to be mostly built out. Again, you're getting closer to Provo and Orem, which are the main hubs of Utah County. So you're going to see some additional growth there in Springville, and you can see there's kind of the older parts of town here on the east side. As we go further east from there, you've got a little bit newer houses over here as you move up into the hillside, and then out here on the west side, you're going to have, again, mostly warehouses, resident or commercial type stuff, you know, gas stations, and just kind of some general, you know, caliber collision, right? A car repair place. So that's going to be kind of what you find out here on the west side. If you're looking at houses, you're mostly going to be over here on the east side for most of that. The other thing worth noting is that you've got I-15 that runs down this this left side of town. So you can see that almost all of the development has happened here on the east side of the valley. Now, just one quick thing I want to mention real quick is if we go back to Salt Lake, just as a reference point real quick, because we talk about this a lot, I-15 is right here, and you've got the Wasatch Mountains over here to the east. Now, as Salt Lake County was built out, there was very, very little growth going on out here until just recently, and I say recently within the last 20, 30 years. So most of the growth did happen close to the mountains, and that's where we saw most of the new houses from the 50s, 60s, 70s was all along this east bench because people wanted to be close to the mountains, right? And so we're seeing that same thing down here in Springville. If we come down here, you can see that Springville, all of the development is over here to the east, and then you've got all of this waiting to be developed out here until future days, right? So the development out here will happen. You're a little bit closer to Utah Lake, so that comes with some pros and cons as well. But as far as getting to the mountains, it's still relatively easy. I mean, from getting off I-15 to the base of the canyon here, you're like 10 or 15 minutes at most. All right, moving up. Let's talk a little bit about Provo. Let's just go ahead and zoom in here. You're going to have kind of your, excuse me, you're going to have kind of your downtown area all around here, based off of Center Street and University Avenue. So this whole area is going to be kind of your downtown Provo area. You're going to have some skyrise buildings. You're going to have lots of old houses that have been there for a long time that have kind of been remodeled. It's going through some revitalization, and that's where you're going to find your most walkable areas for Provo and even just Utah County overall. Utah County and, well, really just Utah is not super walkable unless you're right next to that downtown area. You're probably going to have to drive or at least ride a bike to get most anywhere. So that's the thing to know about Provo. You're going to have most of your commercial and downtown stuff right here. Again, there's lots of new houses going out here to the west. You can see all these developments here. And as we scroll back over here to the east a little bit, let me just go ahead and zoom out and take a look at this. So this is going to be Brigham Young University, which is all in this area. So it's kind of hard to see here on the map, but you've got, basically Utah Valley Hospital. It kind of starts just east of that. So it basically covers all of this area here for Brigham Young University. So obviously a very large presence there of college-age students, and also because Brigham Young University is controlled or owned or ran by the Mormon Church, of course, most of those people are going to be of the LDS faith. So something to just keep in mind there, that Provo overall is going to have a very high LDS population. You're probably somewhere like 70 to 80% if I had to guess. But there is kind of a, what you'd call, I guess, a counterculture kind of coming up. I mean, it's very common nowadays to see people with tattoos or going out to, the couple of bars or restaurants that are popping up. So there's kind of a different side of that culture that's kind of popping up over the last couple of years. So if you're thinking about moving to the area, it's not a big deal. If you consider yourself a Christian or you just don't really care about that stuff, then it's not going to bother you at all. Even if you're not Christian, I mean, it's just, it's just kind of something that's an adjustment for some people, but something that I just thought was worth mentioning, that here, around BYU, it's going to have a very heavy LDS influence. It's the same thing with the Provo, Utah Temple right here. So again, Wasatch Mountains very, very close here to the east, which makes it nice to get outdoors and go and do stuff. If we go ahead and go up a little bit north, you've got more of your shopping and commercial districts here, and you can see that they really run along these main streets. So you've got 89, which is State Street here, and University Parkway. So this is where most of your commercial stuff is anywhere here, car dealerships, banks, gyms, yoga studios, whatever, that type of stuff is going to be here on University or on State Street, or possibly even here to the south. So that's something to note about Provo. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, okay, well, we've got BYU down here. Well, you're also going to have Utah Valley University right here. So you've got two universities basically within like a mile of each other, maybe 2 miles. So you've got Utah Valley University over here and Brigham Young University here. So you will have a big heavy college presence here in Utah Valley as well. BYU is kind of seen as the more exclusive type school, so they have higher requirements to get in. Utah Valley is a little bit lower, but just something to note there. Everything basically between Utah Valley University and BYU, very, very young professional, I guess you'd say a lot of students, a lot of undergrads, a lot of grad students, whatever. It's going to have a very, very young demographic living in this general vicinity. So that doesn't mean that it won't be a fit for you if you're an older person, your family, you're 40, you got a couple kids, whatever. It'll still be a fit for you. It's just kind of something to note that, like, hey, maybe you don't want to live like right next to the school. Maybe you want to be up here, on the north side of Provo a little bit more. So just something to note there in for UVU as we move into Orem. Again, Orem's going to be a little bit quieter than what you find in Provo. So nothing to really talk about there. Again, it's mostly the same stuff we talked about with Provo. State Street and Center Street are going to be your two roads. We're going to have most of that commercial development, and it's basically all built out. You can see that now that we've come into Provo and Orem, there's very little land left available to build. You've still got some pieces up here that will be built out eventually, but as we move west, you actually get into Vineyard, which is kind of a new residential area that's blowing up like crazy right now. So you've got a golf course down here and some land left here in Vineyard. So Vineyard kind of sits right on the beach. Great area if you want to have access to that. To Utah Lake, then that's, of course, Vineyard's hard to beat. But the nice thing about Vineyard is you can live relatively close to I-15 and still commute and not have to go through, Orem, right? So let's say you're living over here in Orem. Well, that's going to be much harder to commute over here to I-15, whereas Vineyard is literally just like a quarter mile away. Okay, guys, stick with me here. We're getting to the good stuff here in Lehi, Saratoga Springs, American Fork, Lindon. We're going to talk about all that stuff here, and then we're going to jump over here to Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain. Like I said, there will be chapters here on the video, so if you kind of want to skip around, feel free to go ahead and do that. I know this is getting to be a longer video. So let's talk a little bit about Lindon right here. So Lindon, mostly small town, not small town, but just kind of mostly a older town that's mostly built out. You can still see that there's some land, that's kind of spread throughout here. So if you're looking for a little bit bigger lot, then Lindon might be a good option for you. The nice thing about Lindon and then American Fork and Pleasant Grove, which are going to be your three cities right here, they all have a very similar feel. I-15 kind of runs down here on the west side of them, so most of the residential areas are going to be east of here. So you're going to have American Fork Hospital is kind of one of your main points that you look at or whatever. And, American Fork, Pleasant Grove, Lindon are all going to be very similar in the way that they feel, right? You're going to have a little bit older houses for the most part, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, but you will be able to find new developments scattered within there as well. So townhomes, you're probably looking like 350 to 500, depending on how nice they are. Single family homes, you're probably somewhere between 500 plus for single family in any of these areas at this point. Again, just depending on how nice they are, how big they are, and how new. So those are the things that you're looking out for. And the cool thing about this is, I don't need to keep talking about this, but basically looking here to the east, it's super easy to get to the mountains. You've got Mount Timpanogos, which is a very, very popular hike. So a lot of people will head up to Mount Timpanogos. And you've also got Provo Canyon right here. There's a river that floats down, or that comes down there that you can go float on. So that's kind of cool to do in the summer. And that's also going to be your access point to get up here to Heber City, to Camas, Francis, and to Park City over here. So you can go up Provo Canyon, or you can come up here from I-80, right here from Salt Lake County. So that's an important thing to know about kind of this east side. All right, so we covered Lindon, Pleasant Grove, American Fork. I really want to get to these other important cities that I think most people are going to probably care about based on, what I always hear from people moving here. So real quick, let's talk about Cedar Hills, Highland, and Alpine. So these are going to be three of the most expensive areas here in Utah County, and even just Utah in general. I think Alpine, there's a zip code there that ranks as the highest price for a median home other than Park City. So I think Alpine is definitely like in the top three as most expensive areas for at least this one zip code. So basically here between these three cities, single family homes, you're really going to have to spend at least $800,000 probably to get a single family home in one of these areas. Alpine's going to be a little bit bigger of a city, and you're also going to find large lots here. If you're looking for a third acre, a half acre, maybe even a full acre, you can definitely get that here, but do expect to pay for it. Lots of houses in the 1 million to 2 million range in all three of these cities, especially Alpine and Cedar Hills. These are going to be more expensive areas. Lots of young professionals that live in this area, maybe not young professionals, but tech workers, healthcare workers, people with good high paying jobs living in this area. Lots of attorneys, doctors, business owners, all of those people are going to kind of choose to live over here if they need to have easy access to the tech corridor that we're going to talk about here in a sec. So that's what's important to know about Cedar Hills, Alpine, and Highland. Not a ton of townhomes or condos in this area. It's mostly just residential and mostly single family homes. So You know, you might be able to find a cheaper house that's maybe like 600,000-700,000, but it's gonna be pretty small and pretty old. So expect to pay at least 800,000 plus to get a house in one of these 3 areas. Honestly, I think these are some of the greatest areas. If I didn't work so much in Salt Lake County and Utah County, I would even consider making a move to Alpine. It's just that I spend so much time in Sandy and Draper and all of these cities up here in the north that it's just hard for me to make that commute, right? So that's why I choose not to live there, but it's definitely an area that I would consider if I was making a move here to the area. All right, so let's talk about Lehi, and then we'll jump over here to Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain. So right here on I-15, this is going to be your main tech corridor. This is where you're going to find all of your tech companies. So if I zoom out here, you can see Draper. This is going to be the very northern tip of it. So the Utah County line is right here between Utah County and Salt Lake County. So you're going to find a little bit of tech going in this area in Draper on the very south end, especially once that prison site is torn down. You're going to see a lot of growth going in there for the tech industry. And as you move south, you're going to find tech businesses all the way down to Provo. So you've got Qualtrics, you've got Adobe, you've got Facebook with a data center, Google's building a data center. Those are going to be out here. Also in this area, you're going to have numerous tech companies such as Podium, Salesforce. I mean, there's just countless numbers of tech companies here in this area. A lot of them that you probably never heard of, but a lot of people with high paying jobs here in this relative area. So the thing to know about that is it's going to be mostly tech workers in this area, and then everything that's ancillary to that, right? Everything that kind of supports that industry. So with Lehi, you're going to find that most of your older stuff is going to be down here on kind of this southwest. So I-15 kind of runs diagonal here. Most of your old stuff is going to be over here, with the exception of everything here close to the lake. So you'll find right where this word Lehi is, this is kind of like the old part of town, and that's gonna be your main hub, right? No real big downtown area necessarily, but you'll find some commercial stuff right here and whatnot. So Texas Roadhouse, Home Depot, Kohl's, Chick-fil-A, Target, all that stuff right here off of State Street. So relatively easy to get to. Costco's there as well, and there's gonna be some new houses down here on the banks of the Utah Lake, and you're also gonna find new houses up here to the north and to the east. So again, houses from the 90s, 2000s, all that right in here in this area, and then you're gonna have tons of new houses up here on the hillside. So for single family homes here, you can expect to pay 6, 7, 800,000 for this area. There will be lots of townhomes to choose from. Those are going to be probably like 400 to 500 at the time of this recording. So you can find lots of great houses there that will fit what you need, just depending on the price range that you're looking in. If it were me, I'd probably try to stick to this north end, up here by the outlets. There's tons of shops in here. I was just there with my wife the other day, and there's like, 100 shops in here. It's a huge outlet mall, which is pretty cool. So trying to stay close to that would be good, up here in the hills, or even over here to the east around Sky Ridge High School would be good, a good option as well. That's where I would be looking if I was looking at moving to Lehi. All right, that being said, you've got Thanksgiving Point, which is kind of this area here. Again, a big commercial area, kind of the heart of Lehi that a lot of people think about anyway. You've got the golf club over here, and then you've got, again, just a bunch of fast food restaurants and office buildings here along this corridor. So that kind of covers Lehi. Let's jump over here and talk a little bit about Saratoga Springs. So Saratoga Springs is really going to cover everything kind of, basically like around, let's say like this is the line, I would guess. It's going to cover everything that's kind of right here in this one little zone. So it really kind of runs north and south here. You've got Eagle Mountain over here, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for Saratoga Springs, most of the growth is going in spaced out in a sense that you'll find, let me just zoom in here. You'll find lots of new home communities just like this that are completely built out, and then you're going to find huge masses of farmland that are still yet to be developed, that are still being farmed. So you can see that this is going to be Redwood Road. This is your main road in and out of Saratoga Springs. This is 68, which comes all the way down here to the south end, and that's going to be your main road in and out at the moment. You can see there's lines here for a secondary road that's going in. I believe it's going to be Mountain View Corridor. It's going to attach up here. So that road will be going in eventually, so that's important to note there, but as of right now, it's just Redwood Road that kind of takes you in and out. So most of your growth is going to be down here. This is a little bit older of a community. They're building a new LDS temple right here, and down here on the edge of the Utah Lake, prices are going to be a little bit more expensive. You're probably $1 million plus for, a decent house out in this area. And over here, up on the hillside, you're going to be a little bit cheaper, probably 7, 8, 900,000 for single family homes up here on the edge. So I've sold a number of houses here. I've got people building in this area, with Sage Homes right here. Talon's Cove, super popular. There's a golf course right here. And yeah, I've sold a number of houses here. It's a fantastic area to live. Really don't have much to say that's negative about it. If you wanted to learn more about Saratoga Springs specifically, I've done a video about that on the channel, so you can search for that on the channel. Just type in living in Salt Lake City, Saratoga Springs, and it will come up under my name, so you can look at that. So you can see that there's so much land here that's yet to be developed. All of this area that's, you know, this lighter color is going to be houses in here. Everything right here, same thing. And as you move south, you can see that it just continues on, and there's no shortage of land out here. So they're going to continue going south here, but for the time being, most of your growth is going in right here. Saratoga Springs, awesome place to live. Don't have a whole lot negative to say about it. Like I said, lots of people that are going to live here in Saratoga Springs are going to commute into Lehi for work. You know, a lot of them are tech workers that live in this area, and it's going to be a little bit slower pace of life. You're going to get newer houses, newer buildings. You really just kind of get that new neighborhood feel that a lot of people are looking for. And that's the nice thing about Saratoga Springs. Is it's just a newer area, so it feels new, it's clean, you know, very low crime, schools are great, everything is great there, and very little downsides for Saratoga Springs. All right, now coming over here, let's talk about Eagle Mountain, and we'll wrap this video up. So you've got two parts of Eagle Mountain. You can see here on the map that Eagle Mountain actually says it's down here, so that is one part of it, but you've also got this area up here, which is considered Eagle Mountain, the ranches. So this area here is city center. This area here is going to be the ranches. So let's talk about the ranches first. You've got the golf club here, and you've got a bunch of new houses going in here. So this is going to be, you can't quite tell from the map here, but this is going to be a lot of hillside type living. So there's hills, there's, you know, up, down, valleys, all that type of stuff right here in the ranches. You know, so you may get a view of like the lake, you may get a view of the mountains, the city. It just really depends. You really kind of have to get a home that's up on the hillside in order to get that. That's the other thing I should mention about Saratoga Springs real quick. If you've got a house right here, this is one of my favorite things about this area. If you've got a house right here, you get a view of the lake, you get a view of the city over here, and you get a view of the mountains. I mean, where else in the world can you get a view of all three things from one place? That's pretty phenomenal. That's the most exciting thing about Saratoga Springs, is just the amazing views you get from there. So the ranches views are going to be very similar, but just, you know, one step down, you're going to find that there's lots of families in this area. It's mostly younger people. It's a little bit cheaper of an area. You can find single family homes, maybe like mid 500s to 750 for most of your houses. And you'll find townhomes in like the, you know, condos and townhomes somewhere between 300 and 500,000, just depending on how nice it is and how big. So that's what you need to know about the ranches. As we come down here further south, the other thing that's important to note as you go into city center is that this is going to be quite a bit of a drive from Eagle Mountain City Center to the ranches. That's about 15 minutes. So if you're looking at making a commute into Lehi every single day, you need to add that extra 15 minutes here. I mean, it could easily be 30 minutes, 45 if there's traffic. So that's one thing to note about this area, is that Eagle Mountain, you know, if you're coming here from city center into downtown Lehi, it could easily be 30, 45 minutes depending on traffic to make that trip. So Eagle Mountain City Center, because it is further out here, you can see how much land there is that could be built on. It is going to be more, cheaper. You can find single family homes, 450, 500, and then, you know, townhomes out here are going to be, you know, probably like high 300s for the most part. So that's going to be Eagle Mountain City Center. Again, there's not a whole lot out here. If you look at this, it's mostly just houses. I mean, they've got a school, they've got a Chevron, there's a Mexican place, Arctic Circle, and a couple churches, and that's pretty much it. You know, it's mostly just houses out here right now. So for your daily amenities, you're going to have to go into town, go over here to the ranches, or even into Saratoga Springs for most of your, you know, daily shopping. Like if you need Home Depot or you need Target or something like that, you're definitely making that drive over here. So if you want a cheaper place, smaller town feel, then Eagle Mountain City Center is a place to consider. All right, guys, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, made it all the way through, I really appreciate it. Make sure to give me a thumbs up on the video and reach out. If you're thinking about making a move here to Salt Lake City, to Utah County, Salt Lake County, or even St. George, you know, on the southern part, then make sure to reach out to me. I love when people do. My information's here on the screen again. Call, text, or email anytime. I'd love to have a chat about the type of home and lifestyle that you're looking for when you do make that move here. Also, if you haven't already, check out my St. George channel. Just type in Living in St. George. Look for my face on the thumbnails, and please go support that channel as well if you're thinking about making a move to southern Utah instead. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.